When did you realize that you are officially not young anymore? It was free day, Sunday, bad weather outside. I was in bed lying on the side, chilling, reading a book when mid-yawn I heard weird noise. I was never out of the bed so fast. By the time I got to the mirror I heard another snap and jaw went on its proper place. But I had swollen left lower side of the face for another 3 days. Talked to my doctor next day and he said, I should not eat hard or any food that needs a lot of chewing for a week or two and not to open mouth too much. I am reminded of this every single time I yawn. I can't go into any bar or casino without being instantly carded, sometimes carded again even after I was carded at the entrance law. Las Vegas was card central for me because I apparently look like a freshman in high school even though I'm 25. My 5'0" high doesn't help either law. As soon as they see the one though ... it's pretty quick. A couple of times they did some kind of special check on my ID because they genuinely thought I was underage and kept looking at me while looking at the card amount. I'll start. I haven't considered myself young for quite a while but then again didn't think I wasn't not young either. Makes sense to me. Now after a recent incident I am swayed that I am definitely not young. The incident was when I dropped something on the floor and smashed it and instead of swearing like a regular human, say a 20-year-old something human, I said the word ratbags. Then got a flashback to my mother saying that when I was young and me thinking geez how old is she? Be nice to hear how other people's memories have been triggered like this. Being called sir constantly now, every fucking time. Gray pubes, gray forearm hairs which gross me out more than gray pubes. Memory fading a wee bit. Having older teenagers who constantly remind you of how old you are by telling it to your face. The need for chalice. Although sex with wife is still fucking spectacular, losing touch with tech a little more each year, shitty fucking mumble rap and realizing that I am immediately older for hating certain kinds of shitty new music, trying to keep up with till, TL drive, IMO, WTF, IRC, GTFO, WSB, and finally, not really giving a shit about porn sites anymore. I have better things to do. Like telling you to get the fuck off my lawn. I got this reality check when I was 32, 49 now. I look a little, damn it, a lot older than my age. So on that fateful day, a mid-30s woman walks into my store, so I give her my full sales pitch trying to get her to spend a little extra so we get to talking just general bullshit when she whips out this gem. So how many grandkids you got? A shit ton of bricks just hit me right on my jaw. I was literally stunned with no retort at all for her, partly cause I had not even thought about my own kids at the time, leave alone grandkids. She totally missed my shock and as I proceeded to pick up my jaw from the floor she says that she's 36-37 and she was shopping for her twin grandkid who was about to be born in a few days' time. This was one of those days when you look at life as a before and after this date in terms of reference. Yikes. Saw some neighborhood kids messing with a stop sign while driving home. I slowed the car down, rolled down a window and said, "Hey, I think maybe you shouldn't be doing that," which in my mind meant cut it out before an adult catches you. But these kids look sheepishly at the ground and give me an okay like I was the adult in the situation. Which I was, gently chastising children for fooling around with public property. Well, either that time or when I buried my father and realized I was the oldest living male in my family. That was more sobering than fun. Had a truck sitting in front of my house a few weeks ago for like an hour, at around 1 AM. Didn't know what they were up to, but I didn't like it. Finally knocked on the window and said, "I don't know what you're doing, but do it somewhere else." Turns out it was a couple of teenage kids fooling around, one of which lives a few houses down and I'm assuming didn't want to get caught by her parents. So yeah, I pulled a literal "damn kids, get off my lawn" on them. and now I'm that curmudgeonly old guy that lives down the street and I'm only 35. Similar situation, kids throwing parties as summer was winding down, loud music and laughter, voices. I said to myself, it's 10 p.m. shouldn't they be turning it down now? Started debating going to knock on the door and tell them to just turn it down a bit. Then I realized it's Saturday night. I realized I am officially that cranky neighbor who's home on a Saturday night with nothing better to do but get mad at the teens doing exactly what I used to do. You know you're old when you call a 22-year-old adult a kid. I have a few friends in their 20s still, and involuntarily call them kids all the time. It's scary realizing they could be your children. 2 of them have little toddlers, and then I realized I could theoretically be a grandpa. Jesus, ha. Sir is like a dagger in the heart. I went out drinking with a couple of friends last night and was home by 11 p.m. I was unable to get out of bed until midday today. It's now 6 p.m. and I'm still hungover despite drinking more than 3 liters of water. I can only hope that I'll wake up feeling better tomorrow. When I was in my 20s, I could party until 5 a.m., get into bed and sleep for 2 to 3 hours and then get up and go to work feeling completely fine. Mid-30s is hitting me pretty hard. I was just around 30, and I filled in on bass for a buddy's band that was playing a frat party. At this point I was at 2 kids, 2 cars, home in the suburbs, career in tech, just being the stereotypical dad. During set break I went up to take a leak, and the toilet wasn't flushing and the bowl was full of TP and piss. So, I took off the tank lid, and noticed that the chain holding the handle to the flapper, the part that stops the water from going right into the bowl, had rusted off. I quickly just hand crimped the chain back together and got that puppy flushing like a champ. On the drive home I realized that I was old. Lots of things, I guess. Here are 3. I don't enjoy parties anymore. I actually prefer to be alone most of the time, and I love peace and quiet. I've started liking paying off debt and saving for retirement, and I don't regret not making frivolous spending choices. More money in my Roth IRA is preferable to a fancier car. My hairline's been receding, and instead of feeling self-conscious about it, I just shaved my head and moved on with my life. I had to edit to add one more. Fucking everything gives me heartburn or an upset stomach now. I was in my late 20s, at work talking with one of our new interns. I can't remember why, but she asked how old someone was and I was like, I don't know, about our age? She gasped and asked, how old do you think I am? Then I gasped and asked, how old do you think I am? Anyway, that's when I realized I was not young anymore. One day I woke up with agonizing pain in my lower back radiating down to my legs. Felt like I was being jabbed with a cattle prod repeatedly. Eventually learned I somehow gave myself a herniated back, despite not doing anything strenuous. Took me like 6 months to fully recover, and ever since then my back aches if I sleep in a bad position. When my youth is now viewed as cool and vintage to the younger generation, even though I'm one gen up. When I started to see all types of new terms and slang, like sussy baka, that I don't know, and I thought I was pretty up to date on memes and stuff like that, when things I used to do with absolute ease are a pain to think about now, literally, like physical things. When I realized I don't have the iron stomach I used to in my earlier 20s. When I was trying to hang out and play with my kid at school drop-off, and she was like, "Mom, not in front of my friends." I realized in that very moment that I was not young, fun, cool mom, but indeed old, regular, embarrassing mom. Also, every single time someone calls me ma'am. I live in a city with a thriving nightclub scene, and used to go to the clubs a fair amount. A good way to find out what's on, before we all had smartphones, was at the weekend people in the city center would hand out flyers for the various club nights. One day I walked up to a guy who went to hand a flyer to me. then looked me in the eye, visibly thought nah, then turned to somebody else. I sang Captain Planet's theme song to myself once and someone asked what song is that? AMD. Like an old person I could only respond with Captain Planet. He's a hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero, saying it slowly like it was an interpretation issue. Got a blank stare and was like fuck, I'm old. When I hired someone to work under me and didn't understand his crazy lingo, like sure I knew I was getting out of touch, but working closely with the young gun really drove home that I have no idea how kids even 6 years younger than me talk. I guess on the physical. When being an active programmer and gamer for enough years caught up and now my hands hurt if I work them too hard, frown. A younger woman, probably around 20, walked into my place of work with her belly button showing, and when she left, instead of a cat whistle or something, the first thing that popped out of my mouth was an appalled "what was she wearing?" That's when I realized I was old. I'm only 28. Hey op, don't stress out so much over it. A few points from someone who's been there. Don't listen to other people too much, go with what you feel is right for you. But, be practical about it. You don't have to hate your major, but you should try to go for some balance between future profitability, flexibility and enjoyment of the subject matter. You're paying for an education, which is you making a financial investment. Like with any financial investment, you should want to see an eventual return down the line. That said, lots of people, myself included, end up working in fields unrelated to their major. It's not the be-all, end-all for your life. The key really is to find something flexible and potentially profitable, or that will teach you a vital skill, etc. I hope that helps somewhat. You're gonna be fine. The back, ranching and construction type stuff for a long time. Went through a lot of Western medicine including injections and RFA but no cure. I met an amazing massage therapist who deals with injury recovery and it has been the best thing ever. Always thought massage was just too woo-woo for a tough guy going this morning. In fact, she also gives me a beat-down when I overdo, so that is good too. Did the opiates on a limited basis and boy I can see how people get hooked. Dodged a bullet there. Depends what you mean by young. There were different watershed moments. Being told by my mom I needed to get a job to help out. I was 17 and still in high school, was one. Being called sir in the store when I was 18 was another. I actually looked behind me to see if they were addressing some guy nearby. Being told at 27 by one of the office bitches that I was no spring chicken. Being told at 28 by a 19-year-old first year sharing my halls at uni. Oh my god, you're really old. At 33, seeing a young lady on a cold weekend night wearing denim shorts and tights and thinking she's going to freeze to death dressed like that. When I went through the drive-thru at the local Tim Hortons and the kid at the window said, "Hey, you were my soccer coach when I was a kid." In my head I was like, how is that possible? I am still a kid. ? Then I realized he is 16 and I coached him when he was 12 and I was 20. Edit. I realize I'm still not old at 24, but I can't help but feel like I was in high school only a couple years ago. I got talked into visiting a strip club with some friends, then they insisted on buying me a dance, and the dancer, despite being what anyone would describe as well developed, looked about 14 to me, though she obviously wasn't, and it was incredibly uncomfortable. There were plenty of times in my life a hot naked early 20-something grinding her ass on my crotch and tits in my face would have been a pretty happy event. But apparently those days were gone. All I could think of was that she was way too young for this kind of work and hoping she had other long-term plans. I started college a bit late, and am still in community college where the student body tends to be on the younger, fresh out of high school side. The other day in my physics class my professor had a picture of the Wicked Witch of the West on one of the PowerPoint slides and asked if anyone knew who it was. I was legitimately the only person in class who had ever seen Wizard of Oz. When a coworker asked me to check out this new great band, It was Alice in Chains over the radio with their replacement vocalist in 2006. Because I'm now well past my prime apparently. Alice in Chains are a Seattle grunge band who peaked mid-90s, who originally formed a group in '87. We were heading to a construction site at the time. I pulled into a parking lot and explained how and why he had temporarily torched my self-confidence and removed any remaining sense of youth. We're still friends. He had his first kid recently. I'm only 40. I'm not even in my bloody 20s yet, and I have back issues so rough that my grandmother moves faster than me. After getting to university in my country, I realized my friends and I will go separate ways and probably lose contact one day. Even though I don't consider them true friends, I don't have others to talk to. Real world is effed more than I imagined, but with age it sinks in deeper in me, and after watching Avatar: The Last Airbender to cheer myself up, I'm even more sad cause I realized that the good old days will never come back and I'm done. A couple of teenagers in high school called me ma'am. Also, I realized that people born in 2000 are now old enough to drink. When I get carded they immediately go starts with 19, you're good. If I'm lucky they add an 88, wow you don't look it, and then I go home and cry. I remember the Y2K scare, when Netflix was in the mail, when you couldn't get online if there was an important phone call, the dial-up sound when you got online, floppy disks, when you had a dedicated computer room, Walkmans, when you bought a CD album based solely on the one single on the radio. Jesus, I'm old. When the kid at the bottle shop called me sir, when my bones just started breaking, when my hair went white, when my friends' kids had better opinions about the world than I did, when a third of my friends had died, when the 70s weren't 30 years ago but 50, when some kids referred to Dr. Octagon as classical, when some kids referred to Eminem as classic. Fucking hell, I'm so old and I'm only 34. Get off my lawn you little fucks. 2 things. The NFL is really the only sport I follow, but I definitely realized I was old when the announcers/reporters/bloggers started talking about players my age being over the hill and washed up. The other was when I saw a commercial for some music award show, not sure if it was the Grammys or MTV VMAs, that mentioned all the live performances and appearances, and I didn't recognize about 90% of the people, bands. When I walked into a high school to pick my brother up, and all those intimidating high schoolers just looked like kids, and then being called ma'am by everyone, I've noticed the shift at work as I've been here. I've been with the same company since I was 17, and when starting everyone would call me Miss Lady, Little Lady, etc. But within the past 2 or 3 years everyone's made a shift from those names to ma'am. Also, the guys that wouldn't make some jokes surround me. I work with all men, now will full on ask me if I got laid the night before. Huge shift for me. When the adrenaline to stop time stopped being available, bunkering multiple people at the same time in paintball, I just feel like a brick. If someone sees me they have extra moves, and I do not anymore, so they are going through the matrix that I used to feel. But I feel nothing and just plaster their face with paint without the slightest tinge of panic or fear. The adrenaline used to help me know what to do next in this constant flow state, but now I am just slow in the mind or something. I can't hear ultrasonic like when I was in the early 20s. Used to be able to tell when someone was coming up the other side to the point where it was impossible to bunker, taking me out point blank. I don't win most of my gun battles anymore because I can't move like a squirrel. Used to win nearly every snapshot duel. Playing Snakeside was what I was good at, but now it just tears me to pieces. What is frustrating is the younger players on my tourney team should be on Snakeside, but they never make any of the killer moves that I do. They just sit in one spot and shoot. Saw a McLaren P1 last weekend parked street side in my hometown. Was taking a picture of it when a kid who was probably in junior high or just starting high school walked up with his friend and went, "Hey look, it's an older McLaren." Older? What? Someone tell me how 2013 is old? I'm 24 and I don't think the P1 is old. It's only like 8 years old. What the fuck is happening? When I threw my back out pulling up my soccer socks, I was on my back for almost 2 weeks. Also, a week ago my family went for ice cream. The kid serving us said he took pride in guessing what his customers might want. He says to me, "You look like a rum raisin kind of guy." In my mind, I thought, dude, that's an old person flavor. However, he was right, and I realize I don't even look young anymore.